Hello and welcome to Transformation Now. Hi, I'm Rita, rocker, speaker, author, trainer with SoaringHigher.rocks, and I am very excited to share some great information with you today. Part of this is coming from my book, Creating Your Own Destiny, Power Steps for Mind-Body Renewal. And so even though this was created for high school students and beyond, there's so much information here about not only being successful workers in the workplace, but in also just life in general, in how we act, how we receive people, how we communicate, our attitude, and all those good things. So a lot of it has to do with optimism, and right now we see so much going on in the world, a lot of sadness, depression, anger. And something that I know I'm trying to work on and spread to other people is love, joy, and optimism for the things that we need to conquer and go forward on, no matter what is really happening today in this world. And so think of optimism as attitude, as hopefulness that a future success there's going to be a future successful outcome to whatever it is that's in your life right now. So think about that and think about success, even though a lot of times it gets very hard to do that when we see so much going on. And so attitudes of successful workers, but also successful individuals is something I really want to share with you today. It says here, you might think that's just because of those people have more of what it takes to succeed, like brains, like talent, and powerful people in their corner. That can be true. However, there are so many people, and I've shared so many stories over the last couple of years of people who were down and out. They were missing limbs, they were homeless, they had gone through so many awful things, and maybe they got rich and then they went bankrupt, and devastating health issues, so many things, but they succeeded anyway. They moved on anyway. They kept going anyway, regardless of losing their legs and playing instruments and walking across America on hands and body like Bob Wieland, and losing eyesight as a champion, world champion motorbike guy, and yet learning how to water ski and becoming a champion there. So, there's just so many things that we can go forward if we choose to, and if we need to get up, dust our knees off, get back in the race again, which has been the story of my life, then we do it, okay? So think about that, but there's something else that is important again, and that's attitude. I've talked to you many times about Tony Robbins, so I'm not going to bring that one up again, but the things that he went through, horrible things, but now multi-billionaire, feeding literally millions of people, in different parts of the world. I saw a little story the other day of a waste management guy, and what had happened was the owner of a large successful waste management company saw this man, and he didn't have any clean clothes on. He was homeless, he was hungry. It was very sad. He had nothing, including food. Well, he really touched this man's heart. So this man took him, and he was able to feed him and get him clean clothes and give him an apartment, someplace to live, and hired him to work with his waste management company. This man never missed a day. He was never late. He did an exceptional job. And now he has a lot of responsibility in this company because the owner saw something in him, even though he was just on the street where most people would pass him up. So that's the kind of life I want to live and encourage other people to do. See the good in people, see that they're hurting, and look at their attitude. This man had such an excellent attitude and so much gratitude. And I'm seeing that in a lot of people. I'm working with some women now who have been incarcerated and addicted to drugs, alcohol, and other things. And it is a blessing to see the changes in their lives. And, the hell that I've been through in my life, I really, really love to see how these ladies are growing and moving forward. Another one is, I remembered, so I looked it up last night, There was a movie several years ago, and it was called Pursuit of Happiness, Happyness, Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, based on a true story. And it was where he had work, he had a little boy, his wife took off and left him with the little boy, and they ended up one thing after another, door slammed in the face, couldn't get work. He was trying, he was a great guy, and how he and his little boy ended up sometimes, sleeping in subways, outside, being homeless, desperate, and it was really heartbreaking, and yet he would not give up, and he told his son never to give up. And so he finally got a break, and he became a very successful financial planner, a financial guy. But he went through so much, and one time he was staying at a place where all the lights had to be out, and there was a light in the hallway, and so he's sitting on the floor trying to read his study material by just what tiny little light came under the door. That's how determined he was. And so many times we can say, well, I can't do this. Like, no, you can do it. I'm telling myself that. Yes, you can do it. And so think about that and move forward. God has so many plans for you, for all of us. So there's a Dr. Martin Seligman, an authority on optimism. Remember, that's the hope for the future success. Discovered that attitude was a better predictor of success than IQ, which is our intelligence quotient, and all other factors involved as well. And I've seen that. I used to work in human resources, and so many times, you'd see a person who maybe did not have all of the skills or all of the education, but they had the optimism, they had the attitude, they were the go-getter. They weren't just looking at this as just a job or something to make some income. They were motivated. And so many times people have been hired not because of education or skills, but because they had the attitude. You can train people on a skill. It's very hard to train someone on an attitude. And so a lot of times people think, you have the attitude, I can teach you how to use this equipment. I can teach you how to create this program. I can teach you that. But the attitude, that's something else. And so that's very critical when you're looking for work, very critical when you want to acquire the right kind of friends and also maintain the right kind of friends. So always think about that as well. I've talked a lot about energy. We do literally, it's scientifically proven, giving off an energy, a vibration. And people can tell, they can feel when the energy is low, when it's negative, when it's depressed. They can also feel and love to be around the energy that's up, that's positive, that's growing, that's motivating and caring. And so think about that, because a lot of times I've had to stop and think, okay, what kind of energy am I giving off right now to the people I'm around? And it's like, oh, lighten up, girl, lighten up. So I do that too. I try to check my energy to make sure what I'm giving out is what I want to give out, and not something like, oh, poor pitiful me. No, we do that at home. So anyway, people, positive, stay healthier. That is medically, scientifically true, because so many times people have acquired cancer or different kinds of arthritis or all kinds of neurological disorders because they were so depressed, they were so down and out, they were so negative, didn't take care of themselves then, and what happened? It took a toll on their body. And so especially as we get older, we really need to be careful about that and maybe change some behaviors. I'm doing that myself right now. But they'll have better relationships as well. And a lot of times, even IQ is not considered as important as EQ, which is your emotional quotient, your emotional intelligence, your self-awareness, how you control yourself. And so we have to think of emotional quotient being really important, just like our intelligence quotient is, and how we reason, how we think about things, how we prepare for things, how we look at things. So he even found that positive people quite often make more money. And I would add, not by coercing people, not by bullying people to do their jobs, but by helping them, teaching them, educating them, enforcing good behavior, giving them a, hey, that a boy, that a girl, you know, hand clap, whatever it is, and building people up, building their confidence up. And then they want to be on your team. They want to do more. So think about that as well. So anyone can adopt the right attitude. And that sounds like, oh yeah, sure, right. But after all the stories and the testimonies that I constantly follow and watch, that is so true. I've seen people literally pulled out of gutters that had nothing, maybe were strung out on drugs, and what became of them, powerhouses, godly people that really changed the world. So no matter where you come from, and that could be, you know, a really rough life, being poor or being rich, or being rich but not having love in the family, wherever you come from, or how much innate talent, which is what you're born with, what's built inside of you. It's kind of like what I call your hard drive, how you're hardwired. The right attitude can make a difference in your career. So think about that. I came across something a couple days ago, and Barbara Walters, this was a very old video, I'm guessing probably maybe in the late 80s or so, and Barbara Walters was kind of like the lead female anchor person, had her own show and all of this, and she was interviewing Dolly Parton. And I was amazed that several times Barbara Walters made very condescending comments, and the questions she asked to Dolly, you know, about your kind of people, and just things that were really degrading. And I was shocked when I saw that, and yet Dolly Parton stayed so gracious, so positive, kept a smile on her face, took control of the conversation. And, you know, she was born in a log cabin, and there were 12 kids in the family. They were extremely poor, extremely poor. And yet she decided that, nope, she wasn't going to continue to live that kind of life. And she built herself and her life up to be one of the most well-known, well-loved, extremely successful female entertainers. So she didn't let that bother her. And even when Barbara Walters, with all of her very negative, nasty comments that she made to try to bring Dolly down, never worked. And I was so proud to just watch her and how she handled that. So think about that. Okay, and I also said, I am in charge of my destiny. I've heard that before, and sometimes they, yeah, but there's so many other things in life that can control your destiny. But you know what, as I've been talking to these ladies that have been incarcerated, I've never been incarcerated, but I've been talking to these ladies who have, and one of them said how much she's been able to learn about God, but learn about life, learn about growing. And I just adored her. I mean, she's got the sweetest spirit about her, and she's working very hard to grow and to learn. The lady who was leading the program said to her and the girl with her, who was also wonderful, she said, okay, so where are you going? What facility are you going to when you leave here tonight? And she goes, back to jail. It's like, oh, okay. But she said what she did. She said, you have so much time when you're in jail to think, to read, to process, that instead of using hers to be angry, she's using all of her time in jail when she's not working on other things with learning and growing and going forward. And I was just really proud of her. So again, we are, in a way, still in charge of our destiny. Who we choose to be around and who we choose to be with, how we choose to spend our time. Is it watching TV all night or on games all night and video games and stuff like that? Or can we take some time to read a book or study or find something on YouTube that's educational or fun, or learn a new sport, or watch YouTube and learn how to dance? I mean, there's so many things we can do. So we really are in charge of our destiny in many, many ways. A lot of times that means ending destructive relationships. I've had to do that more than once. But whatever it is, to go forward. I've asked God for new friends several times in my life when situations changed, and He's always been faithful to do that. He will be very faithful to do that for you as well. So successful professionals go out and make good things happen. And a lot of times if we are feeling unworthy, like me, a lot of times after God gifted me with a lot of things, though, I actually realized not only did I have a fear of failure, rejection, and abandonment, but I felt too unworthy to be successful. And so I see that unworthiness is something too that's very, very important, can really hinder a lot of people and keep them stuck. But know that you are worth everything. You're God's child. You're made in his image. You are worthy. And so think about that. You are in charge of your destiny. We are in charge. So we can do that. So commit yourself to thinking about your career in an entirely different way. If you're doing something you don't like, been there, done that, but you have these desires that keep coming up in your heart of something that you want to do, that's your calling. That's what makes you light up. And that's what you want to do as far as pursuing that career, whether it's just starting out on YouTube, taking classes, volunteer someplace where you actually learn the skills and the abilities that, especially the skills, because you have the ability inside of you to get involved in that, you know, like helping coach a little league team or a charity, a food bank, something. Be around people you can connect with, that you can learn from, that you can watch what they're doing. You can try to emulate things that they're doing and how they talk, how they dress, how they speak to people. Okay, so in a lot of ways, we still can be in charge of our destiny like that, and commit yourself to doing that. I'm still doing that. I'm still trying to learn and read more than I did when I was younger to make positive changes. My book is going to be out soon, finally. It's called Miracle in Your Mirror, Pursuing Your Passion at Any Age. And I'm going to be sharing a lot of information from that when it finally comes out, first part of August. And just to share that with you, be in charge of your destiny. And it will really help you a lot to take the steps to do that. A lot of times we have to push out some things maybe we don't want to let go of, especially people or situations. But once we do, because it's something that's not helping but hurting us, that makes room for the new and the good to come in. Because there's a lot of new and good things that could come into your life, but if there's still negative stuff in there that's taking up all that space, it can't push its way in. So push it out, pray about it, take the steps, push it out, and then new things have room to come in to your heart, to your life, to your home, to your finances, all of that. So you can make it at the top, be in charge of what happens in your life. Don't let people tell you you can't do it. So many times, like, well, you're not worth anything. What does it matter? What do you know? And we take that to heart. I fought unworthiness, fear of failure, rejection, and abandonment ever since I was 5. It still affects me sometimes, but I've realized, no, this does not have a place to stay. And that's what I'm trying to help other people realize. You are worthy. You are so worthy because God made you that way. So people, places, and things, we change them. We've got to kick fear out. Fear, to me, is an acronym that says false evidence appearing real. So let's consider it false evidence, what that fear is that we have of something that we need to do to break that fear. Driving through the mountains, I don't know if I'll ever break that fear, but anyway, to get rid of that so we can move forward. Fear of success. A lot of times, I can't believe how real that really is, but the underlying cause is unworthiness. So think about that and what you would need to do to get beyond that, get going into what you love doing, what you want to do, what's out there for you. Another one of his points was anything is possible. Go, yeah, right. Yeah, maybe for some people, not for me. Well, when you see so many homeless people that became amazing successes, the young lady who was Miss Teen USA with a $39 gown, and foster mother, you know, there's so many things, people playing instruments with their feet, changing babies' diapers, driving with their feet because they don't have any arms, being blind and doing incredible things. So anything is possible. We just have to believe it. So think that there is no way to get where you want, then you definitely won't. Because if you think you can or you can't, you're right. Or as they put it there, if you think you can't, you probably won't. That's all attitude, because, oh, I can't, so we keep, looking over this way. I remember seeing something about a guy who was teaching people to kayak in rough waters with lots of rocks and things around it. And so people were looking at all the crazy rocks that if they hit, they would have a crash and maybe drown. And so a person asked this guy, how are you teaching them to go the direction they're going when there's all these rocks, these boulders over here that could make them crash? And he said, I'm not telling them to watch out for the rocks. I'm telling them to look at the clear path ahead of him. And I went, boy, and there was a lesson in there that it wasn't that we had to look out for what was scary. We were looking at the good thing. So the focus wasn't on the bad. The focus was on the clear path that they could maneuver around to get to their destination. We can also look for clear paths. Sometimes we have to push things aside in order to find that clear path that leads us to our destination. So think about your mind going through kayaking like that through parts that you can get through, even if you have to meander around a little bit, which quite often we do. Okay, so no task is too small to do well. And that is so true. Like I was saying with that waste management guy, and he just started out doing the basic trash, which is an honorable job. But then the owner saw that he had leadership ability and could make him a supervisor to oversee other people and build them up and encourage them at the same time. So again, I mentioned before when I was on the little 18-seater puddle jumper airplane one time from Vegas to Fresno, and I was scared out of my wits because it was so loud and noisy. But the flight attendant on there was the most gracious professional flight attendant I've ever seen on a flight. And she acted like she was on a big fancy airline. And I knew that she was in for a great successful ride and to rise up within the company, because she didn't treat it like, oh, well, here's an 18-seater puddle jumper, whoopee. She was the utmost of professionalism, and that's what we want to do too. People notice that, and then they want us on their team. They want us on their side. So think about that. I was talking with a woman too a few weeks ago from that ministry that I was talking about, and she's a supervisor at a home for disabled, and sound like a nursing home. And so she had built herself up to a supervisor, had a lot of responsibility, but she said, you know what? All these young people don't want to do anything, and I'm not knocking young people. I'm just saying, it's like they won't even clean the toilets. I have to clean the toilets. It was like, why do you have to do that? You're a supervisor. You're managing people. And then she said, I wipe up people's behinds. I clean them up, and then I have to do that too. And she felt kind of bad, but we were all supporting her, saying, you are giving, you are serving. You are ministering to people. You are positively affecting their lives. And so, she kind of had to think of what she was doing in service to people who couldn't help themselves, rather than feeling like, oh my gosh, look what I have to do. And we all just tipped our hats to her and congratulated her for being such a positive, amazing person that she is. So think about that. No task is too small to do well. I have a longtime friend that I actually knew from high school. And when I ran into her many years later, and she had been widowed, and we started getting together and going out and doing things. And I noticed that she was a vice president of media purchasing for what was at the time the largest advertising agency in not only Omaha, but for most of the area around here, and competed in Chicago, New York, and all that. And she would fly to different cities and work with the media purchases. But you know what? She did not have 1 hour of college, not one. She started out as a basic accounting clerk, and because of her dedication and her focus and her hard work and her attitude, she moved herself all the way up to a vice president of this very prestigious, large advertising agency by attitude, just like what this program is about today. Think about everybody as a potential key contact, because you want to be still, even if you go to the store, you want to be able to represent yourself as a positive brand. You never know who you're going to run into or what kind of connection you might end up in having that would be very positive for you. That could be a connection to someone else who knows someone who has the job you want, or who knows someone who needs help in an area where you can volunteer or you can get paid to learn the skills for where you need to go. So many times in life, it's a lot of steps. It's a series of steps to get to where you want. So do that and know that everyone can be a connection to where you want to go and what you want to do. And act interested in them, ask them questions, be totally interested in them, and they will be interested in you. So I'm going to continue on with this next program. I wish you all the best and see you soon.